I'm a bit perplexed in the fact that agriculture is one of the few economic benefits that we have in the county that we're now proposing to encumber that economic situation with a pretty significant bureaucracy over what can and can't be in our water. And what is particularly concerning to me is the fact that it's been stated a number of times in this presentation, and I believe in Supervisor Howard's comments, that this doesn't represent a hazard to human health, that the drinking water is perfectly safe with the copper in the water. And the concern is not for humans, but for aquatic life, which, I don't know, in the Smith River is not a particularly huge economic driver for the county with respect to the fact that our agriculture is probably significantly more important than that of aquatic life in the Smith River. It's nice to have the ability to have fish in the rivers. I suspect that over the time period we're talking about, centuries, that there hasn't been a huge change in the population in the rivers until recently, and I suspect a lot of it doesn't have anything to do with it at all, to do with the amount of copper in the river. So I question the significance of forming a plan for the lily bulb farmers if they can voluntarily make an impact on the quantity of toxic materials that go into the Smith River and its tributaries without some sort of hard and fast plan to limit and place economic burdens on agriculture in this community, which, like I say, is a representative factor to our economic well-being. While the words I speak probably are going to be ignored, and the bureaucracy will come thundering down on our heads, I trust that somehow the agricultural interest in this community will survive in some sort of feasible fashion and continue to produce benefits to this community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Greg King. I'm Executive Director of Siskiyou Land Conservancy. Last time we were here was in 2015, I think. Chris, you came to a presentation I did down at Humboldt State University and asked the Water Board to come then. And so it's great to see you all. I think you're the only person that was here then. I wanted first to invite you all, if you haven't seen it already, we have published a 40-year retrospective report on pesticide inundation and poisoning of the Smith River estuary. It's on our website at siskiyouland.org, and there's a lot of scientific information, a lot of history, and it's a worthy read, I think. I think it's important to note that in 2015, the reason the Water Board was here was due to findings that occurred in 2010 and 2013. And these were highly significant levels of toxicity in creeks that fed the Smith River estuary. Our work got the Water Board finally to do that water monitoring, and they found acute and chronic reproductive toxicity in the salmonid food chain. Which means that the invertebrates that the salmon feed on can't reproduce, and they can often die in that water. And so we had that meeting here. In 2016, our organization also conducted a Smith River health assessment to check in on the residents there. We got a 17% response, which is a fairly robust response, and people experienced highly elevated levels of toxicity in their lives and ailments. I just want to read a few because I think it's important for this board to understand what people are going through in Smith River, if you're not aware already. That after moving to Smith River, people, we found very highly elevated levels of chronic coughs, infections, skin rashes, eye problems, headaches, nosebleeds, digestive problems, urinary problems, sleep loss, neurological disorders, heart disease, and cancer. Last night we heard from a lot of people who have felt the impacts, including one man who surprisingly came with his friend came with a bunch of bees evacuated from Gasky and brought them to Smith River, and they all died. So I have a lot more to say. I would actually like to be able to present to the board. We've been doing this work for 20 years, 23 years myself. And if you want to see the presentation that led to the 2015 event here, go to the Siskiyou Land Conservancy YouTube channel, and it's on there. And a lot has happened since then, including a lot more pesticides, copper, and the National Marine Fisheries Service issued a Section 9 letter saying that the lily growers were in violation of the Endangered Species Act in 2018, and that letter still holds. That has not changed. And you will not get satisfaction from the state. It's really up to this board to really step in and protect the people and the habitat of the Smith River. Thank you very much. I appreciate your service.
First, I'd like to thank Greg for his tireless support on this subject. Secondly, as a fisheries biologist and aquatic ecologist, I would like to make a quote from Aldo Leopold, a professor, Ivy League, in 1930s, when he said, the problem with an ecological education is that one walks alone through a world of wounds. I, more than anyone else, are in the floodplain, Smith River kayaks. I see the damage being done, and it's outrageous. Water Quality Control Board have been kicking this pesticide can down the road for 20 years. If this was Santa Barbara, that wouldn't happen. Why? Because there's a lot of money and a lot of influence behind environmental protection. Here, not so much. We need to get an independent consulting firm from Eureka, one of many, to come and do the water sampling. We cannot trust self-regulation, self-testing by the lily bulb growers. We need independent people to come in, professionals that will come in and do it at the correct times, like Sunday night with the first flush, when concentration of pesticides are at their greatest. I have been on many projects in Southern California where the first flush has killed everything in the creek, and by the time the resource agencies get out there the next day when it's nice and sunny, there's no fish, because they're all dead and they're eaten by birds. I've seen fish rolling spasmodically from surfactants, which are the chemicals you use to emulsify a lot of these pesticides. They can be just as toxic as the pesticides. Different pesticides can have synergistic effects where they both affect the same metabolic processes, which amplify the toxic effects of these chemicals. Now, we're talking about protected species like coho salmon that rely on the tributaries of the Smith River floodplain to oversummer. And if they're filled in by sediment from logging, like they have done this year, or from pesticides and copper, diuron, 1,3-dichloropropene, metamsodium, and a litany of other cocktails that last on Sunday night just dosed those little tributaries. Unless we're out there sampling for that, we're not going to get it. I noticed that sampling in the past, they would do it after a 5-inch rain event. Why? You want to get in there with the first run-up, the first flush of the year. Key words here are the first flush. That's when you sample. I don't care if it's at midnight, and we need independent consultants doing the water quality to give us results that everybody can trust, because we can't trust them to take those water samples at the time and the place required. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time. I've been asked to bear my testimony on this subject. I live on Ocean View Drive next to the lily fields. I've lived in the area on and off for 35 years. My kids went to Smith River Elementary School. I remember back eons ago when they were going to the school, their backpacks would come home with a residue on them. I didn't understand what that was, and I thought, no big deal. I knew that it came from the spraying of the fields, but I thought the government's got our back. Surely it's nothing bad. Last year, skip forward, last year, I was out working in my backyard, planting flowers. I knew they were doing something with the field back there. They're always doing something with the lily field. My property backs up to the lily fields there. There's a bunch of alders. There's a bunch of blackberries. There's a little creek that runs through there, and my house is on higher land than the field by more than what the diagram was. I was planting my flowers in the back. I didn't want to get sprayed with the, not sprayed, but get the mist of the dirt because I thought they were just disking. And I thought I've got a couple more minutes before the tractor comes around and then I've got to go in. Unbeknownst to me, they weren't disking, they were spraying. And I got saturated with whatever they were spraying. It burned my face, it burned my eyes, I could not get my breath, I fell to my knees, I left my garden stuff, and I ran to the other side of the house so that I could get my breath. That's how bad it was. And I had my hanky over my face even. I got to the other side of my house, I bent over, my lungs were burning, I went in, stripped my clothes off, took a shower, came out, called my girlfriend, and she said, you need to go to the ER, that stuff is bad. And I went to the ER. So all of this is documented. The ag department came out, documented what had happened. They took my clothes. It was right during that power outage, so unfortunately that was, it didn't work. But this is a huge problem. And I didn't realize that when my kids were going to school. It doesn't affect you until it affects you personally. And then I started to do my research on it, and I looked up, Googled it, and there's so much information on there. I was shocked at how long this has been going on. This should have stopped years ago of what they're spraying. They were supposed to be injecting this stuff into the ground. I got a face full of it. That's not in the ground. And then what's in the dirt that's flying into my house every day? I love flowers as much as the next person, but this is not right. My girlfriend that worked at the Smith River Elementary School wanted to be here today, but she has bone cancer. She's been sniffing this stuff for 35 years. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate your time.
Good afternoon, Annie Niemer, resident of Smith River. Thank you, Supervisor Howard, for asking the Water Board to be here. Many of the members of our community don't know the Water Board has been sampling monthly the creeks around Smith River for, I don't know, it's been over a year at least, every month. I don't know if it's when it flashes. It's on a schedule. All of the property owners get notified. They do it in a window every month for quite some time. I'm quite disappointed to see that it's going to take 2 years to come up with a plan. I don't understand how, if we can all have Excel for 30 years now and know how to input numbers, why it takes 2 years to analyze data that you are obtaining every month. As a property owner at one of the top of those tributaries, I've had my water tested for pesticides and nitrates, and the only thing it came back with was high copper. So going to what Supervisor Short said, is it copper that's naturally occurring that the fish have always been able to handle? And so is it really poisonous to salmon regarding the copper only? And why is the copper the first thing that you were really talking about? Because my concern is the pesticides. When I moved to Smith River, I thought, wow, this is incredible. This is amazing, beautiful paradise. This is why I picked to live here. However, when we moved in, we had no idea what the lily fields looked like outside of the blooming flowers every 3 years. That's the rotation on a lot. And it was beautiful. And then when the lilies go and you see they dust the whole ground in white, no one's allowed on the property for 10 days, and then they come in their white suit afterwards, and you go, holy crap, what did I just move my kids next to? Fortunately, in my condition and situation, the Westbrooks bought that property specifically, and we watched the property regenerate over the last, I believe, 7 years. The first 3 years we lived there, we got to watch the whole lily cycle. Then the Westbrooks took over. What I first noticed was when they disc the land, it's flat. There's nothing on the land. There's no insect, there's no bird, and there's no gophers. And if you live here, you know all about gophers. Holy hardness to grow anything without them eating it. Except on lily farmland. There'll be 1, 2, 3 pop up and nothing. No birds to eat them, no blue herons. The insect growth that we all see bloom every time it sprinkles, poof, it's not there. It's terrifying. And so it took years to watch these gophers suddenly, poop, 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 and they're repopulated. Thank goodness the Westbrooks bought the land near us. I'm so thankful that at least it's across the highway, and we have hedges according to organic growing practices. One of the ways to help protect your farm is to have a hedge. So our neighbor has a huge hedge. We have a huge hedge, doing whatever we can to protect ourselves to still get to live in this paradise. But I please urge you to look at Siskiyou Land Conservancy and the great work they're doing in trying to also address these pesticides, and not just what the water board's doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Any?
I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Todd Golder. I am the District Conservationist for Humboldt and Delaware County, NRCS, Natural Resource Conservation Service. I probably have worked with a few of you over the years. We are relatively active in Humboldt, relatively active within Del Norte, but we don't have a very large staff currently. What we're looking to do is increase that staff in Del Norte so that we can assist with some of the resource concerns and some of the conservation practices. I really just wanted to get up here and inform you guys that we did receive an award for the National Water Quality Initiative. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow us to bring money in to address resource concerns and apply conservation practices. Unfortunately, it is on a 2-year time frame as well. The first year, starting in 2025, we're going to be looking at developing a watershed plan. Now what we can do is we can take what the Regional Water Quality Board has produced, what Smith River Alliance has produced, and anybody else for that matter, and put together a watershed plan that we can then start to pull items from, start to pull conservation practices from, and request money every single year. To give you guys an example, in Humboldt County, we have the Salt River National Water Quality Initiative. And with that, every year we're requesting $600 to $800 to $1 million to address a variety of resource concerns. With that National Water Quality Initiative, we are tasked with erosion and sediment control. But it expands into forest health, expands into swale health, riparian, just a variety of different resource concerns. Anything else I want to touch on? So pretty much every year we request additional money. So last year for the Salt River, we requested about $650,000. This year I requested $850,000, and we've been awarded those things. So we'd be looking at making a request in 2026 to start to address the riparian corridors, the lily bulb operations, pretty much any agricultural. This National Water Quality Initiative is going to cover the Smith River watershed, Rowdy Creek as well. Now, we do have the ability to expand it later on in a few years, but there is a variety of resources that we can address. I encourage you all to take a look at our website, look up NRCS, Natural Resource Conservation Service. We are a part of the Department of Ag, but we're non-regulatory. We don't come in and tell you what to do. We come in and give you an assessment and provide you guys some alternatives and then go after money. But I encourage you to look at NRCS. I encourage you to look at the National Water Quality Initiative as well. But we have a slew of other programs, Environmental Quality and Sediment Program, Conservation Stewardship Program, a whole bunch of different funding programs that we can help the residents of Del Norte.
Appreciate
it.
it.
Much.
My name is Chesky Jones Scott. It's very clear where everyone stands with the pesticides. You know, Like, it's very clear because they're still going on. They're unregulated. It's not a big deal, right? It's a dirty little secret, but everyone's proud of their lily bulb farms. And I just want to say that the only solution to these pesticides is no more pesticides, period. There's no regulation, there's no buffer, there's no second plan to save us, our health. I mean, this is real life. You know, I can't even live in my own homeland with my son because we're poisoned. And I'm sorry about getting emotional, but this is real. And to the lily bulb farmers, I mean, when's enough enough? You guys made your millions. I mean, we're not getting invited to the Christmas party. I don't know what benefit we're having from the pesticides or the lily bulbs economically. I don't know. We can make a change doing something different. So I wrote something, and I don't know, I'm not trying to come disrespectful because obviously the situation is out of control. It's out of everyone's control. It's out of their control. It's out of your control. It's out of my control. Last night, I left the meeting because I left the meeting feeling hopeless. You know? And it's just like, I don't want to feel that anymore. And the theme last night was, what they kept saying was, our power is limited, we don't have this, we don't have that, blah, 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 blah. And so, you know, who has the power? We have the power as the people to do something. We have the power. The people that are sitting in this room that care, we have the power. And so I just want to say thank you to these people because you put us in a room together and now there's going to be action taking place without the government, without, you know, without whatever you guys have to do, you know, to get us where we need to go. And this is for the water board, but this is also for you guys to hear. Greed, corruption, and fear have brought us here, but it will not lead us to where we go. We want leaders with a backbone and integrity who are not influenced by deals made in the dark. We are sick of systematic abuse on our land, rivers, air, animals, and people. We want individuals who make conscious choices and efforts to fight for our safety. I'm here because I demand you to enforce change, protect our river, protect our future, and protect the people who are actively being poisoned. The lily bulbs have infected our air, water, land, and Smith River for the last 70 years. Greed can no longer be the #1 motivation to be in these positions. Baby, Yameta, enough. You are in these positions to be leaders who are protecting our water. When will safety, human life, and responsibility matter to any of you who are in these positions? Seriously.
Thank you.
Just quick comment about the independent thing they're talking about. I come from an area that had huge money, the LA Basin area and all that. And it didn't matter if they bring an independent or not. It depends on who's making money off of it. You don't know where their tax money is going, where they're paying, who's in whose pocket, even if it's an independent. You know, we know that from just the last 5 years of COVID. Who's in whose pocket, who's collecting the money. I mean, if you guys have your person doing it for the county and you trust them and not that they're trying to fudge the numbers, then that's probably better than an independent because independents always owe money to somebody. Someone's always putting money in their pocket. So they owe somebody something. So just saying, if you guys are already on the board, I didn't know that Smith River was like that. I had a friend who moved there, and I said, hey, how are you going to tap a well? He said, we can't tap a well. We got to go off city water because the ground's so contaminated. Well, that's kind of weird. But I worked in Imperial County. Anybody knows Imperial County? The farm dusting you're talking about, they do it every day. Literally every day, over the roads, over the cars, they don't care. But no one, I'm sure there's complaints, but I didn't live there, I just worked there. So I'm just saying is with you guys, if your county person's taking it and the lady doesn't understand it takes 2 years, any kind of census or program takes time to figure out what's really going on. You can't just do it overnight. And I know you people, 30, 60 years, been dealing with this. But if they're saying it's taking 2 years to get everything down, they got to do studies every single day to find out all that. So it does take time. Yes. It wasn't you, it was somebody else was talking about why does it take 2 years. Because the study's going to take 2 years. If whoever doesn't understand, that's how studies work. Look up any study, it takes a long time because they got to analyze everything. But if the people in the county trust the county and you trust a county worker who's doing the work to make sure the drinking water is safe, so be it. I agree with the lady here who said, hey, the only way to fix it is get rid of all the chemicals. But that's a decision you guys have to make with the farmers who have all the money, who's paying taxes, and political people in their pockets. So that's above my head.
Money's not everything. Money's not everything. Life is.
Thank you.
Good morning. John Roberts, resident of Smith River. When I first started coming up here in the 80s in the Smith River area, I was told how much money the lily bulbs bring into the county, millions of dollars. We're the poorest community and probably one of the poorest counties. Where is this money? Let's look at the facts on the economics. These bulb growers, and they're not farmers. Farmers grow food. Let's get that straight. Okay? These guys don't even grow flowers, they grow bulbs. Okay, the economics of it is they buy everything out of the county. Most of what they buy is out of the state. Fuel, chemicals, equipment, vehicles, everything is bought out of this county. We get very little blowback on that. Now let's talk about what they sell as a pass-through product. There's no sales tax involved. So I'm asking you folks, how much money do they really bring into the county? They have a lot of minimum wage jobs. Is that worth the people in the Smith River community that have died horrible deaths from cancer? You know, when I first came up here, that was the hidden little secret. Oh, they died of cancer, or they died. Nobody says the C word, okay? This is a very complicated thing. It's not only the water, it's the chemicals that are in the dust that blows into the air. I watch them spray, and I watch them tractor when the wind's blowing at 20 miles an hour. For years, you see dust flying all over the county. The pesticide people need to get involved in this. Granted, this is an important thing for people. We just need to be able to get a control on it and work with everybody. You know, I've worked with Rob Miller. I've talked with Rob Miller. He's the most reasonable person of all these people. The others are just like, you know, you can't even deal with them. So it's an important issue, and I don't want to see it get it brushed along. This has been going on since I've been up here in the early 80s. So we need to come up with something, a way to work with both the growers and the residents and the county. So please, let's all keep an open mind on this. I'm willing to work with everybody. It's difficult for me. I'm used to kicking ass, not kissing ass. So, folks, good luck.
Thank you.
My name is Sharon Tanner. I live in Smith River with my brother. This was my retirement dream. My husband and I fished in Gold Beach since 1975. We came every holiday we could. We loved it. My husband died in 2015. He didn't get to come, but my brother and I are here. We bought a house. We knew nothing about this history of pesticides. Zero, nothing. Nobody ever told me when we bought our property in the escrow, there was no warning. There is something that I saw not 2 days ago because I was going to put a building on my property, a storage unit or an art studio. I was told that there's a buffer 30 feet back from my back fence. I cannot put any plants that are for human consumption. That tells me something. It tells me we have to watch out for humans as well as the fish. If all these people have had all these symptoms, and my brother and I have been here less than 2 years, and we are starting to have the same symptoms, there is something going on. Do something about it. Don't put economics over health. And think about the fact that this has been going on for so long. How long is it going to get to mitigate these pesticides that are in our land? I have been going out in my yard and playing with my plants in my soil. And I was here this last August when they were fumigating across the street, because I'm 450 feet or less from where they're spreading this stuff. I was given a notice, and I called and I asked them to tell me when they're doing it. Fortunately, they did. I was really appreciative. The man was very nice. However, I still was forced to be in my house. And a couple times, the times they were going to fumigate, because of their circumstances, they didn't finish somewhere else or whatever, they changed the time. And so sometimes I was there and not. I'm just saying, don't slide this under the rug. Listen to all these people. I've been here less than 2 years, and I knew nothing about it. I had no information when I bought my property.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Hi there. I just wanted to share an experience from yesterday and then ask a question after that. My experience yesterday, last night I was sitting in her house and her cousin came over holding her, 1-year-old baby? 1 year old baby. And the baby had a skin condition on her face. And this person proceeded to tell me that she and 2 other cousins that live on the same street, their babies also have skin conditions on their face. And these 3 women are living on low-income tribal housing that was put on an old lily bulb farm. And so she also shared that in the same neighborhood, in the last year, 5 people had to get their gallbladders removed. And we're coming from a meeting where we're sitting, ironically, in a church, which was really strange to be in, when we're talking about Easter lily bulb farms. This is coming from a meeting where there's maybe 50, 60 people that are sharing of experiences that happened this year, 3 years ago, decades ago, about things that Greg was talking about, where it's nausea, brain issues, skin issues, insomnia, all the issues that other people today have even brought forth. And the way I see it, I guess, is that there's no more research that needs to be done. There's already decades of experience. There's a 40-page research if you want to look at that. I don't even know if this process is even necessary at this point. And I feel like, hey, baby. Yeah, I'm just going to finish this real quick. Okay. I guess what I'm thinking is that I feel like y'all have it really easy in that you have personal experiences across classes. Like, it's not even just the Native people that they're still trying to genocide out with these pesticides. They're actually hitting people in different classes now. And the whole community and all of the non-human kin are being affected. There's eels that are not in the mouth of the river. When we went to fish camp this last summer, there was no fish. I can't think of other examples right now, but those are the ones in my head. And the way I see it is we have all this evidence that there's things going on, and people are hurting, and non-human kin are hurting, and the land is hurting, the waters are hurting, the air is hurting. And so my question is something that I asked last night, which is, what is going to be done about the past, current, and future reparations for what is happening, however long the process is going to take, and including reparations for yourself. If you're residents here, if you're drinking the water and bathing in the water, you're probably affected too.
Thank you.
Hi, it's Alicia Williams. I attended the meeting, and I didn't know all this backstory until I attended the meeting. Based on the presentation by the Water Board, you can see that their initial response was back in, I believe, 2002, when they had issues reported that they substantiated of too high of levels. So they've had data stemming from at least that point. It would have been beneficial if they would have been looking to preventative measures back then. However, we are here now. Let's go ahead and look at preventative now. When I went to the meeting, that was the first thing I asked Brenna when I walked in, is this going to be discussing alternatives to pesticides? Are the lily growers here? No, the answer is no. There are proven effective models that have been in existence for a very long time about how to do things in a sustainable manner where you don't have to rely on inputs for pesticides, fungicides, and fertilizers. Since this is a lily bulb situation, I would say look to Amsterdam, Holland. They do most of the flower growing for the globe. They do tons of bulbs. There are proven effective models that need to be implemented now. We need to be able to give tools to the lily growers that they can grab onto and adapt what they're currently doing now. I don't think that it's wise to wait another 2 years to do more data crunching when we've have more than enough data. It's not just about the certain species in the water. It's the people, and it's also the toxicity of the land itself. Like she was saying, they're building on old lily fields, and it's toxic. So you need to have the component of how do we do a paradigm shift for the growers so that they can do this in a sustainable way that's healthy, but also how do we fix the toxicity in the land so that the health concerns can be addressed moving forward on. I'm sure there's lots of fields that are toxic. Obviously, if they're building on some, there's probably lots. So those are the two components that I would encourage the leadership, with all levels of leadership, including you and the water board and their board, to start working on, like, immediately. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hinckley, California. Remember that? Because people were complaining about getting sick, cancer, whatnot else. And now you got people coming to you guys saying the same similarities, except for it's with the lily bulbs. I don't have anything against the farmers. But if they're, sorry about that, if they're not caring about what happens to these people, we got an issue there. So maybe we should call Aaron Brockovich.
Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm the Advocacy Co-Director of the North Coast Environmental Center. We've been advocating on behalf of the environment for over 50 years. Just wanted to talk on this issue that you have all heard about a lot. You have over 3 decades of research that has been publicly available and published. The Water Quality Control Board also has decades of research that they already have behind them, so more years of waiting is unacceptable. And quite frankly, it's not solely the responsibility of the Regional Water Quality Control Board. Their ability to regulate how much contamination is making it into waterways and groundwater is the extent of their regulation, which is also happening at an unbearably slow rate. But as the Board of Supervisors, you have the power to regulate the land use and to call on the Ag Commissioner to stop the pesticide use and to enact CEQA regulations within the land use permits in order to stop the killing of salmon and other endangered species, as well as to declare a health crisis and stop the poisoning of the people that you are supposed to be representing. Waiting more years is unacceptable.
Thank you.
Not to prolong this for your part. Wasn't that long ago when our Board of Supervisors, we've been fighting tooth and nail to keep our commercial salmon industry when it was viable. in Crescent City for the economic value of it, because it was huge. Now our salmon are depleted, and we've done studies. We know that the copper is affecting the salmon fry in the estuary in a very negative way. I would like to see us be thinking about, again, a commercial fishing industry, which is a very significant thing to this community. It has been for years and still is. If you think of the guides and the people that come here to fish the Smith River, we need to do everything we can to protect our fisheries. And as far as the lily bulbs go, a question I really don't understand. I know for a fact that in the early 80s, I guess it's 1982, when I was teaching at Smith River School, allocarb and temec were found in water wells. One of the wells belonged to a lily bulb growing family who could afford to just move up the hill where the runoff wasn't there, but they were affected physically by the allocarb and temec. The water board got involved, and allocarb and temec were no longer used. It went away. But now, here we are 40 years later, and we've done this study. We know copper is, we don't need to do that again. We know the copper's there. The water board's proved it. And yet, we're going to take another 2 years to put this program together to restrict somehow the bulb farmers. And it's just delay after delay after delay. Why not just, get rid of some of these chemicals that everybody's complaining about? And in fact, the simplest solution would be for the property owners, keep providing the economic value by shifting their crop. Why does it have to be lily bulbs? We've got this beautiful land, all kinds of food crops will grow on it. Why lily bulbs? Why is that such an important, thriving thing when it's literally poisoning our community? Anyway, plenty to think about.
Thank you.
I'm Gil Vargas. Been coming up since '75 when my parents used to bring us up here. I always wanted to spend some of my life here, and I get to do that now. It cost me everything. From the San Francisco Bay Area, I seen the most enriched soil probably in the world get covered by concrete in Silicon Valley. There was once a spotted owl thing that was extinction, and everybody, let's save the spotted owl. But once Google and Hewlett and Packard and all them started coming in, let the spotted owl be damned. And so I seen what politics does to communities. And I'm a builder. I built for the Silicon Valley high execs, CEOs. I'm here now. And nobody ever told us about the poison after we invested everything to be up in Smith River, Ocean View Drive. And because of the fires last summer, we took in a couple from Gasky, and they dispersed all their livestock and for friends' houses. And they came, we invited them, and they brought their beehives. And it was during the summer and fall, and we're interested in beehives too. Let's see, let's observe and see what happens here. Come January and February, I'm like leaning over the rail. I'm going, man, how come I feel like this? I feel terrible. And then after a few days later, I start seeing just the bees just all over the ground with their little tongue. I called up the owner. I go, hey, man, your bees are dying over here. And he already knew that they were poisoned. So he took his beehives back to Gasky, and next thing you know, the rest of them died. So it's a canary in the coal mine, you know, that gives us the warnings that, hey, there's something going on here. You know, being new here, I know that the lily bulb guys have been here a long time, but the indigenous people have been here longer than them. So, hey, I thank the water board for bringing this up, but this is just the beginning. If I have to call whoever, Ellen Brockovich or the heavy hitters in the Bay Area or LA or wherever, that's what we, the people, are going to do. But the poisoning's got to stop.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Candace Vargas. I'm Tony's wife, a new resident of Smith River as of 3 years ago. I have a personal testimony to tell you. Prior to living in Smith River, I was a very healthy person other than being diabetic. I've come to have a skin condition, and it's really weird when the doctor says a lot of people in your area have it. There's nothing we can do about it. It's in the water. I don't know if that's documented because I didn't ask him to put that in there, but it's not easy to live with. I have half the hair that I used to have, and I know you guys see that it's long now, but I've actually had to chop it all off and let it regrow because it fell out in clumps last year and the year before. Living with this condition is embarrassing. As a woman, we think of our vanity, and if you were there washing your hair and you went like this and your hair fell out, or you sit there and you have trails of your DNA samples all over the place because you have this scaly stuff that's just falling off of your body, it's really hard for me to come publicly and share that with you without getting emotional. I didn't have that before. I was raised in LA. When I married Tony, we lived in the Bay Area, and we would come up here every weekend we could possibly have to come up here and say, one day we're going to live here. This is where we choose to spend the rest of our life. I wish that someone, when we were looking for our property, was able to say, hey, beware of this when you're out buying your homes. Because now, as an avid gardener, I've been working in different environments, different places, been growing since I was a kid. And I plant something in the ground and I'm afraid to eat it. Because your nutrients in your food, you're talking about just the lily gardeners. Well, what about those that you say are farmers and you want to turn that land into something that can be more productive for our community? We wouldn't grow community gardens. We can't. Because the nutrients that food gets from the soil goes up through the roots into the food. You can't eat it. It's something that needs to be done. It should have been done yesterday. 2 years from now might be too late. What about the kids that are growing up and going to their schools and getting, it's more than just a water issue. It's a soil issue. It's an environmental issue. Something needs to be done. And we, the people, have a right.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Bring it back to the board.
Chair, if I could. I really was only prepared today to hear a presentation from the Water Board. So this was a lot of information, a lot of eye-opening information, and I appreciate all of you coming forward and talking to us today. Because it's only agendized for a presentation, there's not a lot that we can say in response to what you presented to us. But what I would like is for our agriculture department to bring forth some information in the future, in the near future, so that we can make sure that the residents out there are in the interim safe. So if that's something that we could have on the agenda in either the first week of November or the first week of December, so that Justin, as our Agriculture Commission, can bring forward any information that you have with regard to the soil out there. It's deeply disturbing to hear that we tell people that they can't plant food within 30 feet of this area. That's the first I've heard of it. So that would be my request, is that we get more information from our own agricultural department for the immediate issue. I do appreciate the Water Board's presentation, and that has to take its course. They have to do what they have to do. But it sounds like this opened up more issues that at least I was not aware of, that I'd like to be able to address sooner rather than later.
Quiet in here. My name is Becky Crockett. I'm here today to represent the 3 lily bulb growers that are left. And I want to step back a little bit and give a little bit of history, just a little bit. I don't want to spend up more of your time. But in the 40s and the 50s, Walt Schroeder, who is a loved agricultural commissioner in Curry County, he did an assessment of the number of lily growers that existed in this area. He came up with a number of 600 lily growers that existed in Curry and Del Norte counties, starting back in the 1940s. The history of the lily in the United States really is focused in Curry County. It wasn't until the late 70s, early 80s that lilies actually started to be grown in Del Norte County. So as you can see, we went from 600 growers in the 50s mostly down to when the water quality information came forward that instigated the Water Quality Control Board to say, okay, we want to look at this more seriously. We want to develop some guidelines or ultimately an order. There were 7 growers at that time and about 2,000 acres of production in Del Norte County. However, I want to make it clear that historically, lily growers were in Curry County. So this question of long-term contamination of the soil really doesn't apply as much in Del Norte County as it probably should be addressed if it's an issue in Curry County. So now what I want to talk about that is of most concern to the lily growers who are actively interested in participating in this process with the Water Quality Board to come up with solutions. And as you've already heard, a lot of lily growers have already instigated solutions by establishing buffers and taking a lot of productive land out of production. But when we started this 15 years ago or so, we had a lot more growers. Today we have 3. We had about 2,000 acres in production when we first had this conversation about doing a little bit more as far as protection of the environment. 2,000 acres, 7 to 9 growers, because some of them were at that time were kind of going in and out of being in business. Now we have 3. We have 3 growers, less than 200 acres. Does that warrant this big effort? And in 2026, the question that's going to be out there is, are there any growers?
Thank you.